Chapter 91. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yellow number 1. Translator, Transin editor, Transin. The crowd outside the Wu Tower could only see that the lights on the third level were on. They did not know how many obstacles Zhang Ruo Chen had passed. Not only was Elder Situ in disbelief, but most of the young warriors outside were also highly skeptical. After all, for a new student, to pass the second obstacle on the third floor was startling news for everyone. Elder Situ walked to the main doors of the Wu Tower and pressed his hand into a dent in the metal wall where he injected his genuine qi. The Wu Tower was a genuine martial arms. With the energy of Elder Situ's genuine qi, the inscriptions on parts of the Wu Tower came alive. Beep. The spiritual qi mirror on the third floor instantly began to glow white. The image of Zhang Ruo Chen attempting the second obstacle on the third floor appeared on its surface. The 9 presbyters, 468 new students, and many senior students stood outside the tower, all staring at the spiritual qi mirror. It showed Zhang Ruo Chen fighting against 18 refining warriors. He was fighting bravely. Each of his movements was as smooth as floating clouds and flowing water. He cut through the 18 refining warriors like a hot knife through butter and defeated them all. Seeing the battle, the warriors all grew envious, and wished they were Zhang Ruo Chen fighting against the 18 refining warriors. The female students stared with glittering eyes and had expressions of surprise on their faces. By the end of the battle, they all looked at Zhang Ruo Chen with admiration. Zhang Ruo Chen's performance in the Wu Tower was incredible. In a world where martial prowess was highly respected, young men like Zhang Ruo Chen had a lot of girls going crazy over him. Despicable. He actually managed to get through the second obstacle on the third floor. Prince Ruochen stood amongst the freshmen and gazed coldly at Zhang Ruo Chen. He decided that he had to get rid of the Yinwu Commandery's 9th prince. Prince Ruochen, Zi Qian, and Yao Qingtong were all rare talents, but compared to Zhang Ruo Chen, they were in different leagues altogether. They were almost entirely outshined by Zhang Ruo Chen. He was the 4th person in the history of Western Campus to accomplish this feat who can compare to him. None of the other freshmen or geniuses managed to pass the third obstacle of the second floor. By nightfall, breaking through the Wu Tower finally ended and 120 of the most talented students became external students of Western Campus in the School of the Martial Market. The rankings of the new 120 students were quickly assessed. Not surprisingly, Zhang Ruo Chen was ranked number 1 out of the freshmen, Zi Qian was 2nd, Prince Ruochen was 3rd, and Yao Qingtong ranked 4th. There were 6 females and 4 males in the top 10 of the new students. Luckily, Zhang Ruo Chen was the top student, or this year's female students would have trumped the male students again. A total of 15 warriors from Yinwu Commandery and 38 from Square Commandery became the external students of Western Campus. Overall, in terms of freshmen, Square Commandery had a definite advantage in numbers. However, Yinwu Commandery won 1st and 2nd place, which gave them the better turnout. Western Campus accepts 120 new students each year and more than half were from Square Commandery. However, they didn't represent even 1/3 of the new students this year, which made Prince Ruochen look bad. If it weren't for Zhang Ruo Chen and Zi Qian hunting down 10 of the prodigies from Square Commandery in the first round this year, we would have far more than 38 warriors become external students of the school. Prince Ruochen's expression was very serious, and he did nothing to hide his murderous gaze. Your Majesty, no matter how genius Zhang Ruo Chen is, he is only at the mid-stage of the Black Realm. Given the power of Square Commandery on Western Campus, getting rid of him will be an easy task. As for Zi Qian, killing her seems like such a waste. Why not have her as a concubine? Xia Zhaowu said. Prince Ruochen's mind clicked, and his eyes narrowed. He smiled and said, Zi Qian is very talented, she is even ranked above me. If I could have her as a concubine, it would make me even more powerful. But she is very close to Zhang Ruo Chen, would she agree to this? Xia Zhaowu smiled and said, Zhang Ruo Chen is the prince of an inferior commandery. If Square Commandery attacked them, he wouldn't even be a prince. Zi Qian is a smart woman, I believe she will make the right decision. If she continues to resist, we can always take more extreme measures and force her to submit. Faced with violence, I don't think she will resist. Prince Ruochen's face revealed a pleased expression and he shifted his gaze to Zi Qian. He noticed she was indeed very beautiful. It would be wonderful if he could have her as a concubine. when Prince Wuxing's gaze again fell on Zhang Ruochen, the smile on his face disappeared. Zhang Ruochen must die. Xia Zhaowu, go tell Feng Zhilin to come see me tonight. Feng Zhilin was the older brother of Feng Ziyi. He had become an external student of the martial school 2 years ago, and his martial cultivation had already reached the final state of the Black Realm. Prince Wuxing decided to use Feng Zhilin to deal with Zhang Ruochen. Feng Zhilin's own brother died at the hands of Zhang Ruochen. Being the elder brother, how could he not avenge his sibling? Becoming an external student meant they must collect the specific robes as well as a waist token and residence key. The robes of the external students were all plain white robes, the student's waist token was more elaborate. It was a piece of carved white jade, inscribed and refined into a genuine martial arms. It was about the size of a palm. The waist token not only recorded the information of a student, it also recorded their merits. For example, Zhang Ruochen was this year's top new student and was awarded 3,000 points, so his waist token displayed his merit as 3,000 points. Zi Qian was the second best student and was awarded 2,000 merit points, which were also recorded on her waist token. As for Lu Qingfeng, he was ranked 14th, so his waist token showed 5 merit points. Each month the external students are given 5 points of merit. Those who did not rank in the top 10 were also given 5 points. In the school of the martial market, all practice resources were exchanged for merit points. Without merit points, progress would be slow and difficult. They were a measurement of your contribution to the martial school. Other than the 5 merit points given out each month, additional merit points had to be earned. The waist tokens also recorded each student's ability ranking. Zhang Ruochen infused his genuine qi into the waist token. His ability ranking of 670 appeared on the token. Zi Qian also infused genuine qi into her waist token. 597, what's the ranking on the waist token mean? Zhang Ruochen asked. Lu Qingfeng clearly knew more of matters relating to the martial school than both Zhang Ruochen and Zi Qian and said, the ranking displayed on the waist token is the ability ranking of all the external students of Western Campus. It mostly reflects the cultivation of the warrior, how many tasks assigned by the school that have been completed, the results of the seasonal exams, and the results of the annual 4-campus conference. That is how they measure the rankings. Lu Qingfeng added, Western Campus rankings have little meaning. Those who can enter the profound board are the truly powerful ones. Being able to enter the profound board was the mark of a strong warrior. Your Majesty, which key do you have? Lu Qingfeng asked. Zhang Ruochen looked at the bronze key in his hand and found that his was not quite the same as Lu Qingfeng's residence key. Dragon Martial Temple, yellow number 1, Zhang Ruochen replied. Dragon Martial Temple. Lu Qingfeng's expression changed greatly. He shivered slightly and said, I knew it, I knew it. Zhang Ruochen looked curiously at Lu Qingfeng and asked, is there something wrong with Dragon Martial Temple? Lu Qingfeng shook his head vigorously and said, Dragon Martial Temple is the place with the most spiritual qi on Western Campus. Only the first student of each year lives there. Also, practicing in Dragon Martial Temple has benefits beyond the better spiritual qi. Zhang Ruochen felt a sense of false alarm and said, if that is true, that would seem like a good thing. Lu Qingfeng continued to shake his head and said, there is a rumor on the West Campus if a male enters Dragon Martial Temple, he becomes either disabled or useless. Rumor has it 2 years ago, the first of the freshmen was the son of the Square Commandery's Prime Minister, Yuqi Tiansong. Upon entering Dragon Martial Temple the first night, he had both his legs broken and was thrown out the front door. From then on, Yuqi Tiansong never dared to step into Dragon Martial Temple. It seemed impossible. A prodigious new student having both his legs broken and thrown out of Dragon Martial Temple. That sounded horrible. Zhang Ruochen suddenly remembered the words of Huang Yanchen and Duanmu Xingling. Looking at the key in his hand, he felt a cold wind, chilling him from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. They are so brutal and broke the legs of the new student prodigy. Didn't the presbyters punish them? Zhang Ruochen asked. Lu Qingfeng held his hands up and said, what can they do? One of the devils accused Yuqi Tiansong of entering her room and trying and peek while she was bathing, so she got angry and broke his legs and threw him out of Dragon Martial Temple. The fault lies with Yuqi Tiansong, the school elders can't do anything. If he knew the 3 devils all live in Dragon Martial Temple, why would he dare peek at them bathing? Zi Qian asked. Lu Qingfeng laughed and said, even if he had 10 times the courage, he still wouldn't dare. But one of the she-devils had accused him of the crime, what could he do? Then he just admitted to the crime. Zhang Ruo Chen asked. Lu Qingfeng replied, how could he dare not to? If he didn't admit to it, next time it wouldn't just be broken legs. He would no longer be breathing. Yuqi Tiansong was afraid of them, so he admitted to it, but it was not enough to admit the crime. He had to compensate the she-devil. The 3,000 merit points Yuqi Tiansong received for being the first of the new students was given to her. Whatever you do, don't fall into the hands of the devils. Zhang Ruochen drew a cold, sharp breath. He felt that Dragon Martial Temple should be the most forbidden place on Western Campus. Calling it the dangerous place did not seem like such an understatement. Your Majesty, you have to be careful. Try to survive like Yuqi Tiansong. Even if they break both your legs, so what? If you receive medical care quickly, you'll still be able to walk again. Men can bend and flex, right? Lu Qingfeng patted Zhang Ruochen's shoulder sympathetically. He let out a sigh and began walking towards his own residence. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 92. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dangerous Dragon Martial Temple, Translator, Transin Editor, Transin.Zi Qian did not leave. Instead, she stood shoulder to shoulder with Zhang Ruochen holding her ancient sword in her arms, wearing the phoenix-carved spatial ring. She gave Zhang Ruochen a stare and said, if need be, you can stay at my place tonight. Zhang Ruochen replied. Zi Qian's face turned red but her eyes turned cold and said, what are you thinking? I was only worried you would get both your legs broken and be thrown out of Dragon Martial Temple. Zhang Ruochen laughed and said, it's fine. Although Dragon Martial Temple is a dangerous place, your room may not be safe either. What if you chop off my head while I fall asleep, and sell it on the black market the next morning for 150,000 silver coins as reward? That would be unfair. Zi Qian's gaze became even colder. She wished she could cut off Zhang Ruochen's head and kick it like a ball. She just wanted to save him but ended up being misunderstood. But why should I help him? She was here to kill him. She was a killer, so why would she want to save the person she was sent to assassinate? Zi Qian went deep into a dilemma. Her fists unconsciously tightened and her heart pounded. She realized she was a little reluctant to kill Zhang Ruochen now. This was not a good feeling. As a person who makes a living killing people but is now unable to kill, she was in dire straits. Zhang Ruochen saw Zi Qian's face paled and thought his words had hurt her, so he laughed and said, I was just making a joke. Don't take it to heart. How about I stay at your place tonight and we can also split up the practice resources we got in Omen Ridge? No. Why do you think you can just enter my dormitory like that? Zi Qian's attitude took a U-turn and rejected Zhang Ruochen coldly. She turned and left, but added again, next time you should watch out when you leave your room because I could assassinate you at any time. Zhang Ruochen was briefly stunned. She stared at Zi Qian's retreating figure and said, indeed it is hard to understand a woman. She changed her mind so quickly. Zhang Ruochen shook his head lightly and walked towards Dragon Martial Temple. Even though it was the dangerous place, Zhang Ruochen would still go try his luck. As a warrior, without this courage, he could only achieve little in the future. Dragon Martial Temple was at the center of Western Campus. There are large mountains to the east and west with steep cliffs. It was extremely dangerous. It had to be said that the Martial Market Bank was indeed rich and powerful. It was only the students' dormitory that was like a palace, showing a feeling of grandeur. Seen from afar, the 3 main halls and 8 side halls were arranged in a mysterious way like a tactical formation. By the time Zhang Ruochen made it to Dragon Martial Temple, night had fallen. Not far away, external students of the school could be seen. They were all looking in the direction of Dragon Martial Temple. He's coming. He's coming. The first-ranked new student is coming. He's the one who passed the second obstacle on the 3rd level. Zhang Ruochen. Does anyone want to make a bet on whether he will be beaten worse than Yuqi Tiansong? For sure. Those female devils specifically beat up prodigies. The more talented you are, the harder they beat you. I think they won't be just breaking his legs, and they might even break his hands. Wait and see. It won't take 2 hours and he'll be thrown out for sure. Lu Qingfeng, with the new students from Yinwu Commandery, also rushed to the outside of Dragon Martial Temple. They stared at Zhang Ruo Chen in pity. Lu Qingfeng said, "When the 9th prince is thrown out, you go pick him up. I'll have medicine ready." I exchanged for some high-grade muscles and bones regenerating ointment. The new students standing beside him nodded their heads, all watching Zhang Ruo Chen stand outside Dragon Martial Temple. They couldn't stop sighting and only hoped that Zhang Ruo Chen could keep his life. Zhang Ruo Chen's ears were very sensitive and could hear everything the crowd said. However, he still pushed open the front doors of Dragon Martial Temple and walked inside. Indeed, the spiritual chi is very strong. Walking into Dragon Martial Temple, Zhang Ruo Chen could feel the surge of spiritual chi from all sides. It was at least twice as concentrated as it was outside. Practicing inside Dragon Martial Temple would definitely be faster than practicing outside. Below Zhang Ruo Chen's feet was an enormous white stone square about 200 meters long. In the distance, there was a grand main hall. On the roof of the hall, there was calligraphy writing with the words, Dragon Martial Temple. Behind Dragon Martial Temple, there were 2 other palaces named Observatory Palace and Divine Power Palace. Around the 3 main halls, there were 8 side halls called Heaven Number 1, Heaven Number 2, Birth Number 1, Birth Number 2, Black Number 1, Black Number 2, Yellow Number 1, and Yellow Number 2 respectively. The students who may enter Dragon Martial Temple are all carefully nurtured students of the school. Even their living area is not the usual. Zhang Ruo Chen walked towards Yellow Number 1 and fitted the bronze key into the lock. After opening the door, he walked straight in. Ever since he entered Dragon Martial Temple, Zhang Ruo Chen had been very alert. He had even sent out his space domain. Walking into Yellow Number 1, Zhang Ruo Chen finally let out a breath. It seemed Dragon Martial Temple was not as terrifying as the rumors had it. Suddenly, Zhang Ruo Chen saw that the garden in front had a light on, and there was also sounds of water splashing. Yellow Number 1 is where I live. Did someone already claim this area? Zhang Ruo Chen was not happy and decided to go out and have a look. Who was it that was so arrogant? Having just walked into the garden, he could smell a light floral scent floating through the gates. Walking a few more steps, Zhang Ruo Chen finally saw something that would cause countless men nosebleed. In the center of the garden was a bathing pond. Petals floated on the surface of the water and a pale-skinned female sat in the bath. It was merely a view of her back, but it was so delightful as to steal away one's breath, and not a flaw could be found. Although much of her pale skin was concealed under the water, her figure was still tantalizingly visible, as was each droplet of water falling from her skin. Under the light, she was very beautiful. After seeing the woman, Zhang Ruo Chen's heart leaped and he realized something was amiss. **T. They actually used this trick. Now what do I do? If I get caught, I'll definitely have both my legs broken and my eyes dug out. Although Zhang Ruo Chen was unusually talented and had a high cultivation, he was still at the mid-stage of the Black Realm. How could he hope to be a match for the female devil who had reached the completion of the Black Realm? They were too cruel. Zhang Ruo Chen stared at the back of the female in the bath and felt it seemed somehow familiar. But, at the moment, he could not think too much. He sighed silently and said, "These female devils really committed themselves to defeating me. They even took off their clothes for me to see. They would do anything to get at me. Flee. He must immediately flee." Zhang Ruo Chen looked around and found no one rushing out to capture him. He took one slow step back and prepared to leave without a sound or trace. "You only just came. The female still has not turned around." Sitting in the bath, she seemed highly relaxed and was enjoying the bath. It could not be denied that her voice was very beautiful. It was like a nightingale, particularly melodic. Zhang Ruo Chen was startled slightly and immediately stopped his steps. "Since she knows I'm here, why is she so calm? But, her voice sounds so familiar." Abruptly, Zhang Ruo Chen's gaze became resolute. Since he was already being discovered, he would go head-to-head with her. Since she dared to lay a trap to frame him, he dared to fight with his life on the line. Zhang Ruochen began to circulate the genuine qi in his body and prepared to use the dragon and elephant prajna palm. He wanted to heavily wound her as fast as possible. Only through this way would he have a chance to escape. Of course, given Zhang Ruochen's current cultivation, it was highly difficult for him to harm the woman in the bath who was at the completion of the Black Realm. It would only be possible if she had no defenses at all and allowed him to strike her. Even if there wasn't any hope of success, Zhang Ruochen still had to try. Zhang Ruochen would not resign himself to being like Yuqi Tian Song and have both his legs broken and thrown out of Dragon Martial Temple. Beep. Zhang Ruochen stepped into his paces, exploding outwards at a speed of 38 meters per second. In a flash, he was next to the bath. The woman in the bath had no defenses. She turned her body and said, "Xingling, since you're here, why don't you say something?" The woman did not finish her sentence before seeing Zhang Ruochen's palm appear before her face. The shadow of a young man grew larger and larger in her pupils, her expression suddenly changed, and she was about to circulate the genuine qi in her body to defend herself. However, it was too late. Elephant galloping. Zhang Ruochen's palm hit her chest, and a great explosion of power sent her flying backward. She flew out 10 meters and fell on the steps beside the bath. The woman was wearing nothing and her slim figure was flawless. Only her chest had a blood-red hand print. Ah! The woman spat out a mouthful of blood and collapsed onto the ground, with her whole body shaking. Her chest felt like it was on fire and it was clear she had been heavily wounded. Even if she was a warrior of division profound, to be struck by Zhang Ruochen like so without any warning would at least result in heavy wounds if not death. Luckily at the last moment, she circulated her genuine qi and protected her chest. Otherwise, she would already be dead. Zhang Ruochen looked at the collapsed woman and then looked at his palm. He never thought it would be so easy to heavily wound a warrior of division profound. Of course, Zhang Ruochen did not have any pity. After all, it was the opposition who first sought to frame him, and he struck out only in self-defense. Zhang Ruochen walked towards the woman next to the bath. Seeing her naked, he felt a little sympathy for her. He removed his robe and laid it on her body to cover her figure. Zhang Ruochen said sincerely, "Although your methods are despicable, I will not take advantage of the situation." "Ah! You are Huang Yanchen." Zhang Ruochen finally saw clearly the face of the beautiful woman lying on the ground. It was Huang Yanchen whom he had seen once in the Wu Tower. Huang Yanchen heard Zhang Ruochen's words and was so angry that her whole body shook. Opening her pair of beautiful eyes, she ground her teeth, and then said with a quiver, "Bastard, you dare to enter my residence without permission. I want to kill you, ow." Huang Yanchen spat out another mouthful of blood and fainted. Zhang Ruochen furrowed his brows. Unbelievable. Yellow number 1 is my residence. Clearly, it was her who entered without permission, and now she wants to frame me. Now she has even fainted. This woman, who does not know right and wrong, merciless in her tactics, is definitely not well-meaning. Luckily, I have injured her greatly, otherwise, would certainly be sabotaged by her. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 93. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Who is the devil? Translator, Transin Editor, Transin. It seems that she is seriously injured. Zhang Ruochen's finger lightly pressed on Huang Yanchen's wrist, and he sent a trickle of genuine qi into her meridians. Her body's genuine qi made one large circle of vital energy. Using genuine qi to check for body injuries was common for warriors. She is a warrior at the completion of the Black Realm. Her genuine qi is very rich and strong. How could she be so heavily injured? After inspecting Huang Yanchen's injury, Zhang Ruochen realized he had struck too hard. He had broken 3 of the meridians in Huang Yanchen's body. At that time, Zhang Ruochen did not expect that she would be completely defenseless, so he struck her with all his force. Since she tried to entrap me on purpose, why was she not prepared? Has there been a misunderstanding? Zhang Ruochen's eyebrows drew tightly together. He looked at Huang Yanchen lying on the ground and shook his head lightly. He removed a bottle of meridian healing pills from the time and space spinel and took out a pill, feeding it gently into Huang Yanchen's mouth. It had to be said, Huang Yanchen was truly beautiful. In particular, her luscious red mouth was absolutely flawless. It seemed to be filled with endless allure, making others want to kiss it. Although Huang Yanchen, Duanmu Xingling, and Luo Xuanhuan were the three devils of Western Campus, they were also the three beauties. It was as if God had blessed them with all the advantages. Not only were they given talent in practicing martial arts, they were also given unparalleled beauty. Countless students in Western Campus had dreamed of kissing Huang Yanchen, but unfortunately, none had the nerve to do it. Right now, the opportunity was in front of him. Zhang Ruochen only needed to lower his head slightly, and he would be able to steal Huang Yanchen's first kiss. Zhang Ruochen was not one to take advantage of such a situation, and he quickly averted his gaze. He pressed one hand against Huang Yanchen's back and pushed his pure jade genuine qi into her body, helping her absorb the pill. The next day, when Huang Yanchen woke up, she found herself lying on her familiar bed. Her whole body ached, and even moving one finger was difficult. What on earth happened last night? She thought hard about it. Slowly, Huang Yanchen began to remember the events of last night. Last night, while she was bathing, she was peeked at by the 9th Prince of Yunwu Commandery, Zhang Ruochen. Being peeked at was already bad enough, but the pervert even attacked her and caused her to black out. Wait, that pervert couldn't have gotten ideas after seeing her and did something unspeakable to her while she passed out, could he? Otherwise, why would that pervert peek at her while she was in the bath and then attack her? It must be because he had ideas about her. Having reached this point in her thoughts, Huang Yanchen's face instantly paled. Why am I on the bed? Whose clothes am I wearing? Huang Yanchen's mind became blank. Having suffered the worst blow in her life, she almost fainted again. If she wasn't already heavily injured, she would kill Zhang Ruochen. She raised her head in pain and saw that Zhang Ruochen was just sitting in the room. With his back towards her, he seemed to be counting something. The most unbearable thing for Huang Yanchen was that Zhang Ruochen was only wearing an inner robe, while his outer robe was on her. There was no need for guessing. He must have already done what he wanted to do. Huang Yanchen's last hope died, and a tear rolled down from the corner of her eye. She felt very regretful. If she knew what it was going to be like, she would have gotten rid of him the first time she met him. After Zhang Ruochen used his genuine qi to heal Huang Yanchen and saw that her condition was stable, he picked her up and moved her into the room. Placing her on the bed, he let her recover in peace. It must be noted, at the time, Huang Yanchen was not wearing anything while taking a bath. Zhang Ruochen was not a lowly person, so once his emotions had stabilized, he took off his outer robe and laid it over her body. It was because of this that there was such a misunderstanding. At this moment, Zhang Ruochen was naturally taking stock of all the spiritual crystals, silver coins, genuine martial arms, pills, spiritual brawn, exercise manuals, and martial technique instructions he had picked up from the warriors of Square Commandery. It was certainly a bountiful harvest. It must be noted, all 98 warriors who had died at Zhang Ruochen and Ziqian's hands were each young prodigies. They were talented martial artists of the Black Realm and all had plenty of resources for practice. Of course, most of the people had been killed by Ziqian. After taking stock, the bounty this time surprised Zhang Ruochen greatly. 2 for 83 spiritual crystals, 174 genuine martial arms. Among them, 21 were second-level arms, 107 were third-level arms, 45 were fourth-level arms, and there was even one fifth-level genuine martial arms. There were 368 bottles of pills, triple purity genuine qi pills, congealing blood pills, saint stone pill, and all sorts of other pills. Among them, they were mostly second-class pills, although there were a dozen bottles of third-class pills. Furthermore, the blood pills that the warriors carried haven't been included yet. There was a total of 48 pounds of spiritual brawn. All were stored in jade containers. Other than these, there were a dozen manuals for exercises and martial technique. As all of them were human stage 1s, Zhang Ruochen did not consider them worthwhile at all. Compared to the other practice resources, these warriors carried little in terms of silver coins. Altogether there were only 30,000 silver coins. It was not to say the warriors were poor, but that the warriors had exchanged the silver for spiritual crystals and blood pills, making it easier to carry around. It's unbelievable how many resources we collected. There's plenty to use for a long time. No wonder Zi was adamant about hunting down warriors from Square Commandery in Omen Ridge. This is an amazing deal. If we missed this opportunity, it would be difficult to come across it again. The 2,483 spiritual crystals were equivalent to 2,483,000 silver coins. That was roughly the fortune of a 7th-class family. The 174 genuine martial arms could sell for at least 3 million silver coins, hundreds of bottles of pills, huge quantities of blood pills, dozens of pounds of spiritual brawn, and dozens of books of exercises and martial techniques added together could sell for millions of silver coins. The bounty from the killing of the warriors of Square Commandery was incredible. The amount of wealth in Zhang Ruo Chen's hands was comparable to that of a top 7th-class family. All of the Lin family's wealth might not compare to what he had. It must be noted, the wealth in Zhang Ruo Chen's hands right now was the combined wealth of almost 100 warriors of the Black Realm. They were all prodigies of the Black Realm and would be wealthier than normal warriors of the Black Realm. Zi only cares about spiritual crystals and silver coins. It should be enough to give her 2,000 spiritual crystals. I'll keep the remainder for myself. As for the 30,000 silver coins, she probably won't consider them worthwhile. Zhang Ruochen placed the 2,000 spiritual crystals in a separate bag to give to Zi tomorrow. After all, of the 98 warriors of the Black Realm, she killed 96 of them. Zhang Ruochen only kept a small number of spiritual crystals and silver coins. After tidying up, Zhang Ruochen picked up the only 5th-level genuine martial arm, a half-moon-shaped blade, and held it in his hands. This was Qin Yu's weapon, called Death Sickle. Even without injecting his genuine qi to trigger the inscriptions, Zhang Ruochen could clearly feel the chill radiating from the Death Sickle. It lives up to being a 5th-level genuine martial arm. It's even sharper than the Flash Shining Sword, and stronger too. It's worth more than 100,000 silver coins. The Flash Shining Sword was only a 4th-level genuine martial arm, and could not compare to the Death Sickle. At this moment, Zhang Ruochen heard Huang Yanchen's voice behind him. Bah, Stard, what did you do to me? Zhang Ruochen saw that Huang Yanchen was awake and felt his heart rise. He walked over, wanting to ask and clarify what happened last night. Maybe last night, it really was him being reckless. However, Zhang Ruochen forgot to put down the Death Sickle. Holding a sharp, cold, and flashing sword, he walked towards Huang Yanchen. On his face, there were traces of a smile. Zhang Ruochen had intended it to be a friendly smile, but Huang Yanchen did not see it that way. She thought Zhang Ruochen was going to kill her to prevent her from speaking out. Seeing the Death Sickle in Zhang Ruochen's hand as well as his sinister smile, Huang Yanchen paled in fear. She curled slightly, and pretended to be calm. What are you doing?" she asked. Even though she was a warrior at the completion of the Black Realm, she was also a young and beautiful woman. Right now, she was at her most vulnerable moment. How could she not be afraid? From her perspective, Zhang Ruochen was a cruel and heartless demon. Clearly, he was able to rape her and kill her. Zhang Ruochen stared at Huang Yanchen and revealed a kindly smile. He gently waved his hand and said, "Miss Huang, don't be afraid. What happened last night was not entirely my fault, wouldn't you agree?" When Zhang Ruochen waved his hand, the death sickle he was holding moved too. What was originally a friendly move immediately became threatening. Huang Yanchen gritted her teeth, staring at the death sickle in Zhang Ruochen's hand. She sighed in her heart. As the situation was difficult, she would calm him down first. Under Zhang Ruochen's threat, she was helpless. Huang Yanchen nodded her head in humiliation. She gritted her teeth and replied quietly, "You're right, it was all my fault." How humiliating. How humiliating. Not only did this demon humiliate her, but he was also forcing her to say it was her fault. Huang Yanchen already hated Zhang Ruochen to the next level. I will keep him calm. Even if I had to take the blame, once my cultivation has recovered, I will have the opportunity to avenge him for this humiliation. Huang Yanchen thought in her heart. Zhang Ruochen nodded. He thought Huang Yanchen wasn't all bad. At least her attitude in admitting her mistake was sincere. He continued to smile and said, "Do you know what you did wrong?" Huang Yanchen thought he went too far and got even angrier. However, seeing the death sickle in Zhang Ruo Chen's hand, she once again subdued herself and replied in a slightly trembling voice, I shouldn't have been in the bath. I was wrong, it was me who seduced you. It had nothing to do with you." Huang Yanchen swore that once she recovered, she would certainly tear Zhang Ruochen apart. Zhang Ruochen nodded again. Thinking in his heart, it was just as he expected. She wanted to sabotage him. Luckily he struck first and injured her, otherwise, he would end up worse than Yuqi Tiansong. She would definitely have broken his legs beyond repair. Zhang Ruochen looked at Huang Yanchen thoughtfully. Then he sat on the side of the bed, and said, "Knowing your mistakes is good. It wasn't anything big anyway, and I won't take it to heart. While you recover, I have some things to do, so I'll go out first. I'll come back later to see you." Watching Zhang Ruochen walk out, Huang Yanchen's face became even whiter. Was this demon going to come back tonight? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 94. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The fourth prince, translator, transin editor, transin, Zhang Ruochen just walked out of yellow number 1 and saw Duangsing in blue-colored clothes. He looked a little shocked and greeted her. Ruochen greets senior sister apprentice Duanmu. Duanmu Xingling was surprised when she saw him walking out from the hall. Her beautiful eyes couldn't stop blinking. "How are you still alive?" she exclaimed. Zhang Ruochen looked fairly confused. "What do you mean?" he asked. "Why didn't Sister Chen kill you?" asked Duanmu Xingling. The question frustrated Zhang Ruochen even more. "Why did she want to kill me?" "Wait. How did you know she wants to kill me?" Duanmu Xingling acted as if she had done something wrong and tried to cover it up. She narrowed her eyes with a smile and said, "No. Nothing. I'm just guessing." Duanmu Xingling was unhappy and untruthful. "Were the bad things that I did last night have been discovered?" Duanmu Xingling looked rather upset. She wondered if they had figured out what she did last night. Afterward, she took a closer look at Zhang Ruochen from head to toes. She asked again, "Is Sister Chen still in there?" Zhang Ruochen nodded and said, "There was some misunderstanding between us last night. She is badly injured now. You should go see her." "How could she be injured?" Duanmu Xingling exclaimed. In her mind, Zhang Ruochen should be the one who got injured last night. Duanmu Xingling didn't bother to listen to Zhang Ruochen's explanation. She turned into a shadow and rushed to yellow number 1 within a second. Zhang Ruochen shook his head slightly and walked out of Dragon Martial Temple. When his first stepped out of He Palace, there was a massive noise. Look. Zhang Ruochen is walking out of the palace. He is not injured or wounded. He didn't have his legs broken. This is impossible. He must be suffering from an internal injury. Perhaps his cultivation has already been destroyed. I guess he's been castrated. In the past hundreds of years, none of the male students who entered Dragon Martial Temple would be able to come out without getting hurt. Therefore, the external students have been waiting outside Dragon Martial Temple since last night, to see how he made a fool of himself. Yet, when Zhang Ruochen came out intact and stood in front of everyone, no one could believe it. More than a dozen practitioners in the Yunwu County immediately greeted, and Lu Fengfeng squeezed out from the crowd and asked, "His Highness the Prince 9, you did not suffer from internal injuries?" Tens of students from the Yunwu Commandery ran and welcomed Zhang Ruochen. Lu Qingfeng squeezed out from the crowd and asked, "Your Majesty, you didn't suffer from any internal injury, did you?" "No." Zhang Ruochen shook his head. "No, I didn't." Zhang Ruochen shook his head and responded. Lu Qingfeng continued, "Did you encounter the 3 devils last night?" Zhang Ruochen answered, "Well, I did come across one of them." "Which one?" Lu Qingfeng asked sincerely. "Huang Yanchen." Zhang Ruochen replied. Hearing this name, students who gathered together in the distance took a deep breath. Lu Qingfeng's countenance changed. He said, 2 years ago, Yuqi Tiansong, the number 1 freshman, had both of his legs snapped and was thrown out of Dragon Martial Temple. How come she didn't do anything to you? Zhang Ruo Chen stopped and thought about what happened last night. He thought he shouldn't tell others about it, and said, I'll tell you what happened in private. Zhang Ruo Chen and Lu Qingfeng passed through the crowd and went to a quiet walkway. Out of curiosity, Lu Qingfeng asked again, Huang Yanchen is a well-known female devil of the Western Yard. No one comes to a good ending after offending her. Are you sure she didn't harm you? Zhang Ruochen's countenance changed and said, I have to say, she set a trap and wanted to hurt me. Lu Qingfeng looked worried and asked, what kind of trap? Something similar to what Yuqi Tiansong had suffered. What do you mean? Zhang Ruochen responded. She was bathing in the tub and I saw her. Lu Qingfeng widened his mouth. He was very shocked at what Zhang Ruochen had said. How much have you seen? Pretty much everything, I guess, Zhang Ruochen gasped. Lu Qingfeng touched Zhang Ruochen's entire body to make sure he was saying the truth and that he was completely fine. He asked again, bear in mind that Yuqi Tiansong didn't see anything 2 years ago, but he got his legs broken. Yet, you saw her naked. Do you think she'll just let you go like this? Zhang Ruochen said, it's not really a big deal. She admitted that she made a mistake, so I've forgiven her. What? You forgave her? Lu Qingfeng was astonished. No words could explain how much Lu Qingfeng admired Zhang Ruochen for being able to force a devil to acknowledge her fault. Thus, he found Zhang Ruochen more mysterious than ever. Zhang Ruochen said, you'd better not tell anyone what happened. Since she has admitted her fault, I can't ruin her reputation. Right. Reputation is the most important for women. Lu Qingfeng nodded and exclaimed. Don't worry. Your secret is safe with me. Great. I'll head off to Ziqian. Zhang Ruochen crossed his arms behind his back and walked toward Ziqian's room. He didn't plan to stay long. He just wanted to return the 2,000 spiritual crystals to her before heading back to Dragon Martial Temple. He decided to seclude himself to practice for a while, and hoped to have a breakthrough to reach the advanced stage of the Black Realm as soon as possible. PHF. Suddenly, Zhang Ruochen's ears shivered slightly. He heard a sharp wind-breaking sound close to him. He quickly retreated 2 meters as he thought something dangerous was coming in. A jade-white long spear dashed above Zhang Ruochen's head and struck on where he was standing a second ago. Boom! The force of the long spear was powerful. It shook and cracked the ground open. Zhang Ruochen gave a stern face and asked, who is this? A group of students in white robe walked out from the woods. More than 20 of them surrounded Zhang Ruochen. There were both freshmen and older students. Every one of them was wearing a creepy smile and looked at Zhang Ruochen as if he was a dead man. Feng Zhilin appeared from among the 20-year-old students. He picked up the long spear that stuck to the ground, shook his arm and transferred his genuine chi to the spear. With fierce eyes, he sneered. You're Zhang Ruochen. Zhang Ruochen glanced at the students around him and his face didn't show the slightest bit of fear. He replied. Yes, I am Zhang Ruochen. Do you have any idea who I am? Feng Zhilin asked. Zhang Ruochen surely knew who Feng Zhilin was as he saw him at Omen Ridge before. He responded. You're Feng Zhilin, God's favored son of Square Commandery. Ha! Since you know my name, you should have known that Feng Zi is my brother, the one you killed in Omen Ridge. I guess you don't have any problems if I kill you now, do you? Said Feng Zhilin with anger. One of the students who stood beside Feng Zhilin sneered and said, an eye for an eye. We have to take revenge for what happened, and even the presbyters of the school will not able to intervene. Another student added, Zhang Ruochen, this is your destiny. Fight with elder brother Feng if you dare. In the distance, a student from the Yinwu Commandery passed by. Noticing that more than 20 students were surrounding Zhang Ruochen, he rushed towards the crowd and said in a deep voice, Feng Zhilin, don't go too far. My 9th brother has only cultivated to the mid-stage while you're already in the final state of the Black Realm. If he fights with you, death will be his only way out. Zhang Ruo Chen was shocked. He couldn't believe that there was someone who spoke up for him at this moment. He turned around and looked at the person who just spoke. He was as chubby as a ball that weighed 300 pounds, he just called me his ninth brother. Is he Zhang Xiaochu, the fourth son of the Yinwu Commandery Prince? Zhang Ruochen wondered. Zhang Xiaochu enrolled in the school of the martial market last year. Zhang Ruochen stared at the fat man in front of him. His figure didn't look like he was the fourth prince of the Yinwu Commandery. Most of the princes Zhang Ruochen met were handsome and graceful. None of them looked as fat as Zhang Xiaochu, yet, other princes didn't leave Zhang Ruochen a good impression, but the fourth prince did. After all, it took a lot of courage to speak up for him at such a dangerous moment. In fact, Zhang Xiaochu used to be very close with the feeble ninth prince. Yesterday when he knew that Zhang Ruochen became the #1 freshman of the year, he was so excited that he couldn't sleep the entire night. Early this morning, he planned to visit his outstanding brother. While he was on his way to meeting Zhang Ruochen, he realized that Feng Zhilin had led more than 20 students to surround Zhang Ruochen, and they kept yelling at him. Being his elder brother, Zhang Xiaochu couldn't sit there and then bully his little brother. So he squeezed out from the crowd, wanting to protect Zhang Ruochen. Feng Zhilin glanced at Zhang Xiaochu. He exposed a disdained look and giggled. Piggy Zhang, you do love being punched, don't you? Let me tell you, no one can save Zhang Ruochen today, he must die. I'm not going to deal with you now, get out of my way. Zhang Xiaochu was so irritated that his face turned red. Normally, he didn't dare to provoke Feng Zhilin. When he saw that the one who was being bullied was his ninth brother Zhang Ruochen, he took courage and said loudly, I'm Zhang Xiaochu, not Piggy Zhang. Ha! The 20 students all burst into laughter. Feng Zhilin also sneered and said, how can you say you're not a pig? You are fatter than a pig. The prince of the Yinwu Commandery is a pig. I guess his mother has slept with a pig and now we have a piggy Zhang here. A warrior from the square commandery laughed recklessly. They knew Zhang Xiaochu too well. Although he was a prince, people always bullied him with offensive words and punched him. They even peed on his head, but sadly he didn't dare to fight back. The warrior of the square commandery widened his legs and chuckled. Piggy Zhang, come over here. If you crawl under my crotch in front of your brother, I'll let you go. Otherwise, you clearly know what is going to happen. Zhang Xiaochu had tolerated them for the entire year and he suffered enough. He yelled. Nye Xian, I've had enough with all the humiliation. Bring it on. Zhang Xiaochu completely exploded. His chubby body became even bigger after activating genuine qi in his body. He stuck out a palm towards Nye Xian. With a cultivation at the dawn state of the Black Realm, Zhang Xiaochu was surely not a weak warrior. Nye Xian sneered. He stretched out his arm and caught Zhang Xiaochu's arm with one hand, and struck him hard on his chest with the other hand. It was known that Nye Xian had cultivated to the medium state of the Black Realm, and Zhang Xiaochu was not his opponent. Puff. Zhang Xiaochu spat out a mouthful of blood. His body was sent flying, yet, Nye Xian didn't want to let Zhang Xiaochu go. He smirked and said, since you want to stand out, I'll satisfy you. I'll let you know what your fate is going to be. Nye Xian quickly dashed forward. He threw Zhang Xiaochu up to the sky, grabbed his arms and released 3 punches in a row. Puff. 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 Zhang Xiaochu spat blood after each punch and fell to the ground heavily. Nye Xian stepped 1 foot on Zhang Xiaochu's head and chuckled. Somebody come over and hit this fatty's legs until they're broken. Take off all his clothes and throw him into the savage beast septic tank. See if he still dares to stand out in the future. Looking at Zhang Xiaochu whose face was covered with blood, Zhang Ruochen was filled with extreme anger. He grasped his fist firmly with red eyes and shouted. Nye Xian, I'll destroy you. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 95. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hand-chopped, translator, transin editor, transin. Nye Xian heard a voice. He turned around and looked at Zhang Ruochen. yet kept his foot pressed on Zhang Xiaochu's head. He chuckled and said, "Excuse me, what did you just say? Destroy me?" "Ha! Everybody, he said he wanted to destroy me." The surrounding students all laughed and thought the two princes from the Yunwu commandery were absolute fools. Zhang Ruo Chen was indeed the #1 freshman of this year, but his cultivation was only at the mid-stage of the Black Realm, a mid-stage warrior of the Black Realm claiming he will destroy one at the medium stage of the Black Realm. Is he not a fool? Nie Xian lifted his arms towards Feng Zhilin and said, "Elder brother Feng, please let me teach the 9th prince a lesson. What do you think?" As for a mid-stage warrior of the Black Realm, Feng Zhilin couldn't be bothered to fight himself. He stood there arrogantly with coldness in his eyes. He nodded and said, "Since he wanted to destroy you, I think you should destroy him first." Nie Xian displayed a knowing smile. He kicked Zhang Xiaochu aside and said, "Pig, get out of my way. I'll handle you myself after killing your brother." Nie Xian rolled his shoulders and all the joints of his body cracked. He walked steadily toward Zhang Ruochen, laughed and said, "Zhang Ruochen, you said you wanted to destroy me. Here I am, come on." The students who surrounded Zhang Ruochen all stepped aside with excitement in their faces. Zhang Ruochen glanced at Zhang Xiaochu who was crawling on the ground, and shook his head at him, signaling him not to fight. If Zhang Ruochen bore the humiliation now, he would still have a chance to stay alive. If not, he would die a horrible death today. Feng Zhilin didn't want the presbyter of the school to intervene, because he wanted to take his revenge on Zhang Ruochen for killing his brother. Zhang Ruochen shook his head at Zhang Xiaochu, fiercely determined. He looked at Nie Xian and said, "Nie Xian, do you think I should amputate your hands or your legs first?" Nie Xian sneered and said, "Boy, you overestimated yourself." He stopped fooling around with Zhang Ruochen. He thrust against the ground and dashed towards Zhang Ruochen at a speed of 40 meters per second, as fast as a blast of wind. The greatest advantage of mid-stage warriors of the Black Realm is their speed. Compared to warrior at the medium state of the Black Realm, they are able to kill an opponent in one strike before he can even respond, yet, Zhang Ruochen was no ordinary warrior of the mid-stage of the Black Realm. In terms of speed, he was not much slower than a medium-stage warrior of the Black Realm. As Nie Xian charged toward Zhang Ruochen countered with an outstretched palm, jade-white genuine qi flowing between his fingers and exploding with powerful force. Boom! Their hands slammed together. Nie Xian's countenance fell. He could feel the shock of Zhang Ruochen's palm penetrating his arm, a pain as if it had split. Realizing his prospects, Nie Xian stepped back immediately and kept his distance from Zhang Ruochen. Nie Xian's arm was trembling inside his sleeve. He was lucky that he had retracted it in time. Otherwise, the meridians in his arms would surely have been severed. What overpowering genuine qi, what level do you train at? Nie Xian asked. It was obvious to Feng Zhilin and the other students that Nie Xian was in an unfavorable situation fighting against Zhang Ruochen. Everyone clearly knew that even though Nie Xian had just broken through the medium stage of the Black Realm, none of the warriors of the mid-stage were strong enough to confront him. The students murmured, "I can't believe the 9th prince of the Yunwu commandery is so powerful." Feng Zhilin had noticed the jade-white splendor glittering in Zhang Ruochen's palm. He cracked a smile. Interesting. Looks like the exercises he practices are extraordinary, otherwise how could he defeat Nie Xian? Zhang Ruochen stared at Nie Xian and said, "You should take my move too." Afterwards, Zhang Ruochen tightened his entire body like a fully stretched bow. The genuine qi in his body was circulating rapidly. His legs thrust against the ground and he dashed towards Nie Xian like a shot arrow. The power of his bones and muscles was fully activated and exploded through his palm with full force. Galloping elephant. As Nie Xian had just been humiliated by Zhang Ruochen, he didn't dare to look down on him anymore. When the palm wind came through, Nie Xian displayed the Vajra bone-breaking finger, a human stage superior class martial technique. He transferred the entirety of his genuine qi to his extended middle finger, which revealed a faint golden splendor glittering upon it. Vajra bone breaker. Nie Xian's arms seemed to turn into phantoms. He pointed his finger and struck at Zhang Ruochen's palm. Boom! The finger and palm clashed together. Nie Xian and Zhang Ruochen both felt uneasy and retreated a step back. Fortunately, Zhang Ruochen had cultivated a pure genuine qi and was therefore able to withstand Nie Xian's technique. Otherwise, the finger Nie Xian released would have pierced through his palm. As soon as Zhang Ruochen had stepped back, he attacked again. He thrust against the ground, leapt 7 or 8 meters into the air and unleashed a palm dragon in the sky. Although Nie Xian's finger was still in pain, he had had no choice but to release another finger at Zhang Ruochen's palm. Boom! Nie Xian retreated 3 steps back from the power of Zhang Ruochen's palm. Zhang Ruochen's movement was coordinated. He immediately hit the third palm dragon and elephant returning to earth. Boom! Nie Xian's finger was broken. He moaned and stepped back devastated. He stared at Zhang Ruochen from far away with an intense shaking arm. The pain on his finger caused a sweat on his forehead. His middle finger had been broken. In fact, Zhang Ruochen was also in pain. There was a burning ache coming from his palm. Drops of blood seeped from his palm. He grasped his fist tightly as blood dripping to the ground. The fighting force of Nie Xian was indeed more powerful than Qinyu. Prince Ruochen had been paying attention to the fight between Nie Xian and Zhang Ruochen from far away. He looked coldly and said, Zhang Ruochen has just reached the mid-stage of the Black Realm, and he's already able to confront a warrior of the medium state of the Black Realm. We can't let him live. He's definitely a threat to the square commandery. Standing next to Prince Ruochen, Xie Zhaowu sneered and said, Don't worry, Your Highness. Nie Xian hasn't demonstrated the real strength of a warrior at the medium state of the Black Realm yet. I'm sure if he fully demonstrates his power, Zhang Ruochen will never be able to stop any of his moves. Prince Ruochen nodded and said, A warrior at the dawn state of the Black Realm can demonstrate the animal spirits fixing beasts, while a warrior of the medium state of the Black Realm can perform the animal spirits fixing arms. Once Nie Xian puts forth the power of these 2 meridians, defeating Zhang Ruochen will be an easy task. Xie Zhaowu chuckled and said, Nie Xian must have a backup plan and won't demonstrate these 2 powers easily. Anyway, he is fighting with a warrior of the mid-stage of the Black Realm. It was no doubt that this was all due to Prince Ruochen's manipulations. Yet he's still a freshman, and Zhang Ruochen didn't attack or provoke him. Thus why would he use Feng Jilin to handle Zhang Ruochen? He only needs to monitor behind the scenes. Nie Xian tolerated the pain of his finger and said, Great. The number 1 of the freshmen is definitely beyond an ordinary warrior at the mid-stage of the Black Realm. Since that's the case, I'll let you take a look at the Ghost Hand, a low-class spiritual martial technique. Nie Xian was stepping on his legs as he flapped his arms until they formed into phantoms. Zhang Ruochen blinked. Even though he had transferred his genuine qi into the eye vessel, he could hardly identify Nie Xian's technique. Zhang Ruochen had no choice but to release the space domain. He could take control of the area within 30 meters of the space domain. With the power of the space domain, Zhang Ruochen could finally recognize Nie Xian's handprints and techniques. Nie Xian is a medium-state warrior of the Black Realm. I'll no doubt lose if I fight recklessly with my cultivation. I have to defeat him before he demonstrates the power of his meridians, or even destroy him. As a talented warrior, Zhang Ruochen clearly understood the difference in cultivation between Nie Xian and himself. He only had 1 chance to strike. If he doesn't make use of it, his end will be worse than that of Zhang Xiaochu, the 4th prince. Zhang Ruochen's sight focused on Nie Xian, who was dashing towards him at a high speed. He grasped the time and space spinel in his hand firmly and hid it in his sleeve. Zhang Ruochen, it'll be a fairly outstanding loss under my Ghost Hand. Nie Xian sneered with a creepy face. A dozen palm shadows hit Zhang Ruochen at the same time. Zhang Ruochen moved to his left slightly and took out a foot-long death sickle from the internal space of the time and space spinel at his fastest speed. He swayed his arms, swung the death sickle in the air and cut off Nie Xian's Ghost Hand. Blood squirted everywhere. A bloody hand fell to the ground. Ah! My hand! Nie Xian screamed. He put pressure on his wrist where the blood was flooding out. He almost fainted away under such pain. Zhang Ruochen wouldn't let go of such a good opportunity to take Nie Xian down. He kicked Nie Xian in the chest and sent him flying tens of meters. when Nie Xian was about to stand up, a heavy leg stepped on his chest. The bones made a cracking sound as if his chest would cave in. Zhang Ruo Chen put the death sickle on Nie Xian's throat and said, "Don't move. Otherwise, you're going to lose more than your hand." Nie Xian was furious. If Zhang Ruo Chen hadn't suddenly taken out the sickle from his sleeve, he would never be defeated by a mid-stage warrior of the Black Realm. "How dare you to destroy my left hand? You're definitely going to die today." Nie Xian exclaimed, clenching his teeth. Far away, Feng Zhilin and other students had finally realized what had just happened. They rushed towards Nie Xian and surrounded Zhang Ruo Chen. Swish. Every single one of them looked murderous. They all took out different levels of genuine martial arms, as if they were going to tear Zhang Ruo Chen into countless pieces. "Bastard. Let Nie Xian go." One of the students who was carrying a sword, pointed it at Zhang Ruo Chen's chest. If he took one step closer, he would drive the sword into Zhang Ruo Chen's chest. Zhang Ruo Chen sneered. He put the death sickle on Nie Xian's neck and exclaimed, "I'll cut his head off if any of you move an inch." "Really? You don't think I'll break this pig's skull first?" Feng Zhilin grabbed Zhang Xiaochu's neck hard and dragged him to Zhang Ruo Chen. Feng Zhilin activated his genuine qi with a cunning smile and put his palm on Zhang Xiaochu's head. "Zhang Ruo Chen, put down your sickle and let Nie Xian go right now. Otherwise, I'll make sure my palm is powerful enough to kill your brother." Zhang Xiaochu was extremely scared and his lips trembled as he said, "Ninth. My ninth brother. Don't do it. If you let Nie Xian go, you'll be a dead man." Slap. Feng Zhilin put his fingers together into a palm sword and chopped Zhang Xiaochu's arm, breaking his right shoulder. "Ah!" Zhang Xiaochu screamed. The pain distorted his face, his body was sweaty and his lips turned black. "If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 96, The Life and Death Platform. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 96, The Life and Death Platform. Translator, Transin Editor, Transin. A sense of coldness showed in Feng Zhilin's eyes. His 5 fingers combined together again and aimed at breaking Zhang Xiaochu's the other hand. "Enough." Zhang Ruochen exclaimed. Feng Zhilin stopped his strike at the 4th prince and sneered. "My 9th prince, have you finally made up your mind?" Zhang Ruochen looked irritated. He released the death sickle from Nie Xian's throat and threw it on the ground. "Let my 4th brother go." Zhang Ruochen clearly knew that even though he had threatened Feng Zhilin with Nie Xian's life, it wouldn't work as Feng Zhilin didn't care about whether Nie Xian was dead. That's right. When Feng Zhilin noticed that Zhang Ruochen had let Nie Xian go, there was a cunning smile on his face. His hand still struck Zhang Xiaochu ruthlessly and broke his arm. Then Feng Zhilin threw Zhang Xiaochu, who had fainted away because of the serious pain, aside. He stared at Zhang Ruochen and chuckled. "Your Highness, bear in mind this is the school of the martial market, not Yunwu Commandery. Every word you say, you must mean. When it's time to back down, you have to back down. Come on guys, destroy his arms and legs, now." The 20-odd students all attacked Zhang Ruochen at the same time as if they wanted to tear him into pieces. Zhang Ruochen didn't bother to look at those who were rushing towards him. He stared coldly at Feng Zhilin and walked towards him little by little. One of the students, who was at the advanced stage of the Black Realm, rushed and attacked Zhang Ruochen. Zhang Ruochen caught the student's arm with one hand and smacked him with the other hand. The student's arm was broken by Zhang Ruochen's palm. Bang bang. Zhang Ruochen straightened out his palms and seized the 3 swords in front of him. The jade-white genuine qi exploded from his body, blasting the 3 students out, and he rolled the 3 swords into his sleeves. He swung his sleeves and released the 3 swords. They pierced through the legs of the 3 students and stabbed them to the ground. "Ah!" All 3 of them screamed loudly. Bang. A student at the dawn state of the Black Realm slashed his sword across Zhang Ruochen's back and let out a sound of metal crashing together. Fortunately, Zhang Ruochen was wearing Icefire Kylan armor that prevented the sharp sword from injuring him. The student who had just attacked him was fairly shocked. At the same time, He noticed that Zhang Ruo Chen had turned around and was staring at him fiercely, yet, the student wasn't frightened by his cold stare. He looked disdainfully and swung another sword at Zhang Ruo Chen's arm, bang. Zhang Ruo Chen unleashed a palm on the student's chest as well as grasped his wrist tightly in order to snatch the sword away from his hand, then, he took the sword and snapped hard on the student's left face. Bang! The student passed out right away. In terms of the mastery of martial technique, Zhang Ruo Chen's application was indeed sophisticated. Yet, he was facing more than 20 students and most of them were experienced warriors. There were quite a number of bloody wounds on Zhang Ruo Chen's body after a series of fights. A large number of students had been attracted by the excitement of the fight, all of their attention focused on Zhang Ruo Chen, who had been surrounded by the 20 students. They all showed a sense of sympathy. It was obvious that the genius, the number one freshman's life was hopeless. Fighting was not forbidden in the school of the martial market. They even encouraged fights between students under one circumstance: the outcome of death was never allowed during the fights. If any student killed on purpose, the school of the martial market would no doubt put him to death. No matter how talented the students were, they would be put to death if they murdering other students. This was the reason why Prince Wuxing refused to show up himself, but instead, he made use of the help of Feng Zhilin to get rid of Zhang Ruo Chen. Other than that, there was another rule of the school of the martial market. If two students appeared to hate each other, revenge was allowed in the school. For example, if one killed the other's loved one, therefore, it was legitimate for Feng Zhilin to take revenge on Zhang Ruo Chen as he had killed Feng Zhilin's brother. It was suggested that the presbyters of the school should stay away from the fights. Revenge and resentment should be dealt with by students themselves. When everyone thought Zhang Ruo Chen would die, a tiny woman squeezed out from the crowd. Her soft hands lifted her snow-white chin slightly and stared at those 20 students surrounding Zhang Ruo Chen. She chuckled. Interesting. Very interesting. Seeing the tiny shadow walking out from the crowd, the students were all frightened and saluted right away. Greetings, senior sister apprentice Duanmu. Duanmu Xingling didn't pay attention to any of the saluting students. Rather, she put a smile on her face and walked towards Zhang Ruo Chen and the 20 students who had just fought with him. The students all stopped when they saw Duanmu Xingling heading over. Even the arrogant Feng Zhilin had shown fear on his face. He quickly greeted Duanmu Xingling with courtesy and asked, "My senior sister apprentice Duanmu, I wonder what makes you honor us with a visit?" Duanmu Xingling extended a thin finger and pointed at Zhang Ruo Chen. "I'm looking for him." Zhang Ruo Chen was still surrounded by tens of students at this moment. There were numerous cuts and wounds on his body and his white robe was almost covered in blood. Yet, 11 students were lying on the ground with severe injuries. Some had their arms broken, some had fainted from Zhang Ruo Chen's palm, and some had their legs pierced by swords. The situation was horrible. Feng Zhilin's countenance changed after hearing what Duanmu Xingling had said. He saluted again and said, "My senior sister, Zhang Ruo Chen killed my only brother. I have to seek revenge for him. Where is the justice if we spare him? If we don't kill him, I'm sure the soul of my brother will not rest in peace. If we don't kill him, I, Feng Zhilin, cannot be classified as a warrior with the spiritual blood." Feng Zhilin put up an irritated attitude so as to arouse people's sympathy for him and anger for Zhang Ruo Chen. Yet, what he had said wasn't true. In fact, although Feng Zhilin and Feng Zi were brothers, their relationship was never harmonious. They had already fallen out with each other when they were scrambling for the inheritance of the Fangs long ago. They were so eager to put each other to death. When Prince Wuxing found Feng Zhilin, he promised him that once he killed Zhang Ruo Chen, he would definitely help Feng Zhilin become the leader of the Feng family. Therefore, revenge for his brother was just an excuse for Zhang Ruo Chen. Feng Zhilin added, "Moreover, I've already informed Elder Situ that I want to seek revenge for my brother." Since Zhang Ruo Chen slaughtered almost 100 candidates in the first round examination, Elder Situ has also been critical that with such poor conduct, he is not suitable to become a student of the school of the martial market despite the fact that he is a talented warrior. Most importantly, Elder Situ will allow me to take revenge on Zhang Ruo Chen. Duanmu Xingling nodded and responded. "Oh, I get it. Are you threatening me with the name of Elder Situ?" Don't dare. Even if you give me power, I would not dare offend you. Feng Jilin said with fear. Duanmu Xingling straightened out one of her soft hands and tapped Feng Jilin on his shoulder. He was so scared that he bent his legs and almost kneeled down on the ground. Why are you so scared? Duanmu Xingling asked with curiosity. Feng Jilin's forehead was covered in a cold sweat. He said, I dare not be unafraid in front of senior sister. Duanmu Xingling nodded with satisfaction and said, I understand your feeling, Jilin. Anyhow, your brother was killed by someone. If I were you, I would seek revenge for sure. To be honest, I don't want to make you feel bad, but Sister Chen has sent me here for Zhang Ruo Chen. She said no one can touch Zhang Ruo Chen. The kill is hers. Feng Jilin looked shocked. He couldn't believe that Zhang Ruo Chen was connected to the female devil Huang Yanchen. This was absurd. If Feng Jilin had killed Zhang Ruo Chen today, he would have offended both Duanmu Xingling and Huang Yanchen. By offending two female devils, Feng Jilin would have no way to live in Western Campus. Duanmu Xingling walked towards Zhang Ruo Chen and giggled. Well, you are the one who killed his brother as well as bringing trouble here. Why don't you think of a way to settle it? Hearing what Duanmu Xingling said, other students then understood what was going on instantly. Duanmu Xingling was completely on Zhang Ruo Chen's side, so she let him decide what to do. With the appearance of Duanmu Xingling, even if Feng Jilin invited 100 more students to come over, no one would dare kill Zhang Ruo Chen. No matter how many Black Realm warriors there were, they would be easily defeated by the warrior of Division Profound. Feng Jilin had no choice but to give in before such massive power. Zhang Ruo Chen stared at Feng Jilin and said, Feng Jilin, I admitted that I killed your brother. If you want revenge, I'll offer you a chance. 1 month from now, I'll fight you on the life and death platform. Feng Jilin's eyes showed a smile and said, Senior sister, this is what Zhang Ruo Chen said. I didn't force him. The crowd was absolutely shocked by Zhang Ruo Chen's decision. The life and death platform of the school of the martial market was similar to the Colosseum of the martial market. Warriors had to sign the life and death contract to make sure no other people were involved if either party died. Since Zhang Ruo Chen is under the protection of senior sister apprentice Duanmu, Feng Jilin doesn't dare get close to him. Why does Zhang Ruo Chen still want to fight? One of the students was confused. Another warrior laughed. You kids know nothing. A grown-up man never wants a woman's protection. This is indeed a smart move by Zhang Ruo Chen. If he doesn't fight with Feng Jilin, everyone in the school of the martial market will look down on him. Not to mention, Zhang Ruo Chen is an outstanding genius who is proud of himself and is confident in defeating Feng Jilin. I get it now. Yet, if a mid-stage warrior wants to fight against a final state warrior of the Black Realm on the life and death platform, he actually will court death, right? Moreover, senior sister apprentice Duanmu can do nothing to help when Zhang Ruo Chen fights on the platform. Feng Jilin will surely kill him. Zhang Ruo Chen, I'll see you on the life and death platform in 1 month. Don't get frightened and not show. Feng Jilin said confidently. Zhang Ruo Chen responded. Don't you worry. You avenge your brother's death and I avenge my 4th brother. I'll have your arms broken in no time. Ha! Looking forward to it. Let's go. Feng Jilin swung his arms and led the injured students back to the school. The life and death platform was not a place for fun. Defeating Feng Jilin with just 1 month's preparation was an impossible task. Zhang Ruo Chen's decision was out of Duanmu Xingling's expectation. She asked, Are you sure you want to do this? Going on to the life and death platform is a serious matter. It may cost you your life. Zhang Ruo Chen responded with a faint smile, Senior sister, thank you for stepping up just now. However, the hatred between Feng Jilin and myself need to be handled. Perhaps the life and death platform is quite a good place for both of us. Duanmu Xingling's impression of Zhang Ruo Chen improved instantly. All of a sudden, she felt pleased with the number 1 freshman as if the misunderstanding between them had dissolved to a certain extent. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 97, the truth is out there. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 97, The Truth is Out There. Translator, Transin Editor, Transin. Zhang Ruo Chen put a saint stone pill into Zhang Xiaochu's mouth to heal the wounds, and then carried him on his back to Dragon Martial Temple. Duanmu Xingling followed Zhang Ruo Chen with her hands behind her back. Her breasts were high and round. She stared at Zhang Xiaochu with a look of disdain and furrowed brows. Is he really your brother, Zhang Ruochen? I don't see a prince in him. Zhang Ruochen had met the 8th prince, the 6th prince, the 5th prince and the 3rd prince, but he never felt any kinship with them. Although Zhang Xiaochu was not as handsome as the other princes, he had stepped forward to help when Zhang Ruochen was in the greatest danger and at the time of his most need. That action alone was worth Zhang Ruochen's respect. Duanmu Xingling continued, Zhang Ruochen, you won't carry that fat guy to Dragon Martial Temple, will you? Zhang Ruochen said, he is seriously injured. Can't I take him back to recuperate? Duanmu Xingling blocked Zhang Ruochen at once, with arms akimbo, saying, no. No man is allowed in Dragon Martial Temple. Zhang Ruochen asked, who says that? It's Western Campus's rule. Duanmu Xingling twisted her face, seeming arrogant. Zhang Ruochen ignored her entirely and walked past her to enter the door of Dragon Martial Temple. I can enter Dragon Martial Temple. So can my 4th brother. Duanmu Xingling followed up and said, your talent was the only reason that we didn't go tough on you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have left Dragon Martial Temple in one piece last night. Zhang Ruochen acted like he didn't hear Duanmu Xingling at all, and walked directly to yellow number 1. Suddenly, Zhang Ruochen stopped. He let out a light sound in surprise. That's odd. It should be yellow number 1, but now it's earth number 1. How could it be? The horizontal inscribed board of the side hall clearly read, earth number 1. Zhang Ruochen had a good memory so that he knew that he didn't take the wrong way. Then, there was only one explanation. Someone had changed the horizontal inscribed board of the side hall, who was so bored that they would change yellow number 1 to earth number 1. Zhang Ruochen took out the bronze key and inserted it into the keyhole, only to find out that it didn't open. Apparently, someone had also changed the lock. Duanmu Xingling seemed uneasy. She blinked and said in a low voice, you took the wrong way, Zhang Ruochen. This is earth number 1 where Sister Chen lives. Yellow number 1 is across from it. It's impossible. I visited here last night. I wouldn't have made that mistake, Zhang Ruochen said firmly. Duanmu Xingling said, it's hard to say. It was too dark last night. Maybe you remembered the wrong way. There is no possibility. Zhang Ruochen drew back the bronze key and turned around, staring at Duanmu Xingling. If it's earth number 1, then, there's only one possibility. Someone switched the horizontal inscribed boards and the keys of earth number 1 and yellow number 1 to lure me into earth number 1. Am I right? Zhang Ruochen stared at Duanmu Xingling firmly. Duanmu Xingling had a guilty conscience so that she looked at the ground and asked, who is that board? Zhang Ruochen said, no one inside Western Campus dares to break into Dragon Martial Temple, and outsiders never dare to come in. There are only 3 devils that live in Dragon Martial Temple, Luo Xuanhuan, Huang Yanchen, and Duanmu Xingling. Surely, Huang Yanchen wouldn't have done such a thing. Then, only you and Luo Xuanhuan are left. We could easily find out the truth by asking Luo Xuanhuan. No need to do that. It's me. Duanmu Xingling finally admitted it. She forced a smile. Truth be told, I just wanted to make a joke with you. I didn't expect it to go wild last night. Zhang Ruochen sighed. I thought you were acting strangely when I met you this morning. It really is you. Why did you do such thing? Do you know you nearly got me and Huang Yanchen killed last night? The truth was out there. Duanmu Xingling felt a little guilty. She put on a pitiable look and said, I've told you that I just wanted to make a joke. Who could foresee that you would peep at Sister Chen bathing? What's more, you took a huge advantage. By the way, what happened between you two last night? She was crying when I visited her. I never saw her cry before. Zhang Ruo Chen felt a little guilty. After all, he misunderstood Huang Yanchen and injured her badly last night. To be honest, Huang Yanchen was the one most wronged. Zhang Ruo Chen said, a warrior of division profound is still known as the devil. She would cry. Zhang Ruo Chen asked. Duanmu Xingling nodded. She was crying very badly. Did you do some unspeakable things after you injured her? Did she say so? Zhang Ruo Chen asked. Of course not. Duanmu Xingling continued, I asked her, but she didn't tell me. That's why I am asking you. After all, Zhang Ruo Chen had seen Huang Yanchen naked, and injured her seriously last night. He thought for a while and said, it's my fault. Did you really do unspeakable things to her? Duanmu Xingling gaped, looking surprised. Maybe. Zhang Ruo Chen nodded slightly. In fact, Zhang Ruo Chen was an innocent boy, so he didn't really understand the true meaning of unspeakable things. In his last lifetime, he had always focused on martial arts and seldom had time to develop romantic relationships. Even when he was with Princess Chi Yao, they had only held hands. Due to that, he knew even less about romantic relationships than Duanmu Xingling. Zhang Ruo Chen said, I should explain it to her face to face. No, Duanmu Xingling blocked Zhang Ruo Chen again and said, if Sister Chen knows that she fell into that situation because of me, she would definitely hate my guts. Zhang Ruo Chen stared at Duanmu Xingling, saying, doesn't that mean that I will take the blame for you? Duanmu Xingling thought for a while and then said, what's more, there is no use in explaining it to her. She will kill you the moment she sets eyes on you. With just a move of her finger, you will be a dead man before you can explain. How about a deal? You hide the truth about last night from her for me, and in return, I will persuade her to spare your life. What do you say? Does she have to kill me? Zhang Ruo Chen asked. Duanmu Xingling nodded, saying, you should blame yourself. If you did such a thing to me, I'd definitely tear you to shreds, too. But if I put in a good word for you, maybe she will let it go. Will she let it go so easily? Zhang Ruo Chen asked. Duanmu Xingling laughed. Although the students call her the devil and iceberg beauty, I know that she's always fond of the top geniuses, and she made an oath to marry the greatest man in the world. For example, she thinks highly of Zhang Tiangui, the top genius of the 36 commanderies of Omen Ridge, and mentions him frequently. Although you are not as talented as Zhang Tiangui, you will have great achievements in the future if you work hard. Maybe Sister Chen will have an interest in you, then you can stay alive and marry a beauty at the same time. What a lucky guy. After all, you have done that thing already. The seventh prince, Zhang Tiangui. Zhang Ruo Chen said. Duanmu Xingling's eyes lit up. Right. How could I forget that the seventh prince of Yunwu Commandery is your seventh brother? Is he the top genius of the 36 commanderies of Omen Ridge? Asked Zhang Ruo Chen. Duanmu Xingling said with rare admiration, Zhang Tiangui is much more powerful than you. He achieved the third rank of the Profound Board when he was 16 years old, and has become an example to all the youth of this generation. He broke through to the Earth realm and became the internal disciple of Yuntai's suzerain with the best score when he was 17 years old. Now, he is 20 years old and no one knows how high his cultivation will go. There has not been such a talented prodigy like him in a century. Zhang Ruo Chen, you didn't achieve the mid-stage of the Black Realm until you were 16 years old. You are far away from your seventh brother. Zhang Ruo Chen said mildly, I will surpass him someday. That's the spirit. If you have the desire to advance, you will definitely become a warrior of division profound after 3 to 5 years of practice with your talent. Sister Chen will have a completely new appraisal of you when you become a warrior of division profound. Duanmu Xingling smiled with her mouth closed. Then, we have a deal. Zhang Ruo Chen thought for a while and said, okay. That's settled for now. I'm going to take my fourth brother to Yellow Number 1 to heal his wounds. Are you okay with that now? Okay, of course. Duanmu Xingling smiled. Zhang Ruo Chen carried Zhang Xiaochu to Yellow Number 1 on his back and put him on the bed. Then he applied the muscles and bones regenerating ointment to his arms. A warrior's physical quality was much better than that of ordinary people. Although Zhang Xiaochu's arm bones were broken, with the help of the muscles and bones regenerating ointment, his bones would fully recover in half a month, Zhang Tiangui. Zhang Ruo Chen said the three characters, and then shook his head. The most important thing for him now was preparing for the fight in 1 month against Feng Jilin at the life and death platform. Feng Jilin's cultivation was at the final state of the Black Realm. Only if Zhang Ruochen upgraded his cultivation to the advanced stage of the Black Realm would he have the chance to beat Feng Jilin. Maybe other warriors couldn't break through to the advanced stage of the Black Realm in just 1 month, but Zhang Ruochen definitely could do it, because he had the time and space spinel. If one practiced inside the time and space spinel for 3 months, only 1 month's time would pass. That meant Zhang Ruochen had 3 months to practice. With my massive amount of practicing resources, it won't be difficult for me to achieve the advanced stage of the Black Realm in 3 months. My biggest weakness now is my martial technique. If I can successfully practice the 4th movement of the Dragon and Elephant Prajna Palm or the whole set of the Sacred Sword skill, it will be a piece of cake to beat Feng Jilin. With that thought, Zhang Ruochen entered the internal space of the time and space spinel to begin his practice. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 98, Dragon Shape and Elephant Shadow. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 98, Dragon Shape and Elephant Shadow. Translator, Transin Editor, Transin. Zhang Ruochen sat in cross-legged in the internal space of the time and space spinel. He took out half a kilo of spiritual brawn from a jade vessel and started to take it. The spiritual brawn, which condensed the spiritual chi of savage beasts and the essence of spiritual blood, had countless benefits for warriors, such as to gain force, to strengthen flesh and blood, and to prolong life. Generally speaking, for a warrior who had just reached the mid-stage of the Black Realm, eating about 5 kilograms of spiritual brawn and practicing diligently would allow him to break through the advanced stage of the Black Realm in half a month. As the body of martial arts of Zhang Ruochen was much stronger than many other mid-stage warriors, if he wanted to break through to the advanced stage, he had to eat at least 20 kilograms of spiritual brawn. 24 kilograms of spiritual brawn is enough to help me practice the advanced stage of the Black Realm in a short time. All 24 kilograms of spiritual brawn were looted from the bodies of square commandery warriors who died in the first exam of the martial school. So much spiritual brawn was worth at least 200,000 silver coins, which was definitely a huge wealth. The spiritual brawn was very precious, so normal warriors did not dare to eat it. However, Zhang Ruochen did not care and quickly ate half a kilo of it. After consuming the spiritual brawn, Zhang Ruochen felt full of strength while both his blood flow and the circulating speed of his genuine chi had accelerated a lot. Zhang Ruochen stood up and began to practice the 4th palm of the Dragon and Elephant Prajna Palm. At the same time, he accelerated the absorption of the spiritual brawn into his body and turned it into his own power. The 4th palm of the Dragon and Elephant Prajna Palm was called Dragon Shape and Elephant Shadow. With 1 foot in front and slightly bending of his body, Zhang Ruochen's 2 hands were like dragon claws or elephant palms. Bang, bang. He struck out repeatedly and palm prints all around. He had at present only practiced 3 palms successfully: savage beast galloping, dragon in the sky, dragon and elephant returning to earth, which was only equivalent to the martial technique power of the human stage superior class. Of course, it definitely belonged to the top martial technique in the superior class of the human stage and could even contend with some martial techniques like the low-class spiritual. However, once he had practiced the 4th palm successfully, the Dragon and Elephant Prajna Palm could transform into a genuine low-class spiritual martial technique. At that time, the power of the Dragon and Elephant Prajna Palm would be comparable with some weaker martial techniques of the mid-class spiritual stage. Time flew by very fast. Zhang Ruochen had practiced in the time and space spinel for half a month. He spent most of his time every day practicing the Dragon and Elephant Prajna Palm. And after half a month of hard work, he could apply the 4th palm, Dragon Shape and Elephant Shadow, smoothly. 1 palm struck out and a stream of genuine chi surged forward. In his palms, you could hear dragons roaring and elephants howling. However, there was still a huge gap before he succeeded fully in the 4th palm, Dragon Shape and Elephant Shadow. If Zhang Ruochen succeeded, his body would turn into 2 shadows, exploding out with double the power when he wielded the palm. One shadow would be a dragon claw and another one would be an elephant palm. although he hadn't practiced the fourth palm of the dragon and elephant prajna palm successfully, his power had enhanced a great deal. During this half a month, Zhang Ruo Chen took half a kilo of spiritual brawn per day, a total of 7.5 kilos, and his martial arts realm had raised rapidly. Half a month ago, Zhang Ruochen had just entered the mid-stage of the Black Realm, and his genuine qi only accounted for 20% of his whole qi lake. Until now, his clear jade genuine qi became more vigorous, accounting for 70% of his qi lake. Not far from the completion of the Black Realm mid-stage, he was able to easily defeat Nie Xian with his current cultivation. Only 5 days had passed in the external world, of course, while half a month had passed in the time and space spinel. Walking out of the internal space of the time and space spinel, Zhang Ruochen went back to his room of yellow number 1 again. Meow. Sitting on a copper chair, Blackie, like a black fuzzy ball, was reading a yellow book with his 2 paws. On the book cover read 5 words, Ancient History of Kunlun Field. Having seen Zhang Ruochen walk out of the time and space spinel, Blackie closed his book and stared at Zhang Ruochen with his 2 big bright eyes. Young man, have you reached the advanced stage of the Black Realm? Not so fast, it still takes some time. Zhang Ruochen kept a close watch on Blackie and asked curiously, where did you steal this book? Steal? Blackie said unhappily, I went to the scripture tower in the school of Martial Market and took a book out with me. After I finish it, I will give it back. I didn't steal anything. Zhang Ruochen didn't intend to quarrel with him. How about the condition of my 4th brother's injury? That fat guy's cultivation is common, but his wounds recover very fast, and 1 arm can be lifted up. I think it will take at most another 10 days to heal, said Blackie. Zhang Ruochen asked, where is he now? He has gone, answered Blackie. Zhang Ruochen asked, what? Why? After hearing that he was at Dragon Martial Temple, he ran away quickly, answered Blackie. For many male warriors who lived in Western Campus, Dragon Martial Temple was a forbidden area which had lots of scary legends. When Zhang Xiaochu heard that he was in here, his face turned green and he ran away as soon as possible. Zhang Ruochen dared to stay in Dragon Martial Temple, but Zhang Xiaochu didn't let him go then. Zhang Ruochen decided to seclude himself for refining and to break through to the advanced stage of the Black Realm as soon as possible. In the days after, he practiced in the internal space of the time and space spinel for another half month and took half a kilo of spiritual brawn per day as usual. He spent most of the time practicing the dragon and elephant prajna palm and less time on the sacred sword skill. Finally, after his genuine qi filled the qi lake, Zhang Ruochen could begin to break through to the advanced stage of the Black Realm. However, Zhang Ruochen was not in a rush. He decided to continue consuming spiritual brawn, and build up his strength so that he could break through to the realm in one go. Zhang Ruochen had practiced in the internal space of the time and space spinel for 1 month, which was equal to 10 days outside. The duel between Zhang Ruochen and Feng Zhilin was 20 days away. I can't break through the 4th palm of the dragon and elephant prajna palm yet because I still have some deficiencies, which would be found out by fighting with the master. Zhang Ruochen stopped secluding himself for refining and planned to fight with Blackie and to find out his own deficiencies. When Zhang Ruochen walked out of the time and space spinel, he heard the cold voice of Huang Yanchen from outside the door. Fat cat, move away. If not, I shall kill you too. Standing outside the door, Blackie erected his tail high and said to her without any vigor, Zhang Ruochen is secluding himself for refining. Even if you break in there, you still can't see him. Little girl, follow my advice, and go away quickly. If you infuriate me, then no one on earth can save you. Is that so? Then I'll attack you and see. After Huang Yanchen's injuries healed, she intended to get even with Zhang Ruochen at once and went to Zhang Ruochen's room indignantly. But she never expected she would be headed off by a talking cat. She was in a rage, feeling both Zhang Ruochen and this stupid cat were assholes. She drew out a royal blue, archaic sword and stabbed at Blackie. Swish. In no time, Blackie magically changed into a black shadow shunning Huang Yanchen's sword and threw himself back at her. A surprised look emerged on Huang Yanchen's face since she didn't expect this fat cat to escape her sword and move at a speed which equaled a medium-class level 2 savage beast. But for her, the speed of Blackie was still too slow. She sneered and shot a palm, hitting Blackie more than 10 feet away. Blackie's body slammed into the wall and fell flat on the ground, which made him feel dizzy. Bitch. You are too cruel. Climbing up from the ground, Blackie showed his sharp teeth with great wrath. Even if he couldn't defeat Huang Yanchen, he would teach her a lesson. This stupid fat cat was so mean to Huang Yanchen that she intended to cut its tongue as soon as she caught it. Zhang Ruo Chen pushed the door open and came out. He smiled at Huang Yanchen. Senior sister, your injuries have recovered. Seeing Zhang Ruo Chen, Huang Yanchen's eyes became even colder. Huang Yanchen didn't want to say a single word to Zhang Ruo Chen and directly stabbed her sword at him. It happened that Huang Yanchen was a warrior of division profound. They could compete with the top masters of the Earth Realm. Huang Yanchen's sword techniques could instantly kill average warriors of the completion of the Black Realm. Looking at the swiftly moving sword, Zhang Ruochen's face changed and he thought. Duanmu Xingling was right. Huang Yanchen hates me so much that she won't listen to any words from me. Zhang Ruochen looked at Duanmu Xingling who was not far away, and she nodded to him, understanding his meaning. Swish. Transforming into a petite gorgeous shadow, Duanmu Xingling dashed in front of Zhang Ruochen and stopped Huang Yanchen. With two jade-white slender fingers, Duanmu Xingling clamped Huang Yanchen's sword tip between them. Calm down, Sister Chen. Zhang Ruochen is the new first-ranked student. If you kill him, you will get a serious punishment from the school. Huang Yanchen shouted. Step aside, Xingling. I have to kill this pervert today. Huang Yanchen's 5 fingers twisted and she turned the blade around. It emitted some sword breath that shook Duanmu Xingling's fingers off. Immediately, Huang Yanchen struck again and created a white, 4-meter-long sword breath. Duanmu Xingling had reached an agreement with Zhang Ruochen so that she would prevent Huang Yanchen from killing Zhang Ruochen. Thereupon, Duanmu Xingling also drew out of a sword and stopped Huang Yanchen once again. Xingling, why do you stop me from killing him? Suddenly, Huang Yanchen struck out with 9 sword techniques one after another in the air, stabbing towards 9 key parts of Zhang Ruochen's body. One special feature of Huang Yanchen's genuine qi was its wind nature. A 7-meter diameter storm vortex emerged with her strikes automatically, like a series of blades flying from a whirlpool. Phew. One of the blades flew by Zhang Ruochen's armpit and cut into a pillar. It left a 4-centimeter deep gash there. She probably triggered the Gale's sacred mark, so her genuine qi would carry the wind nature. Standing on top of the stairs, Zhang Ruochen watched the sword techniques wielded by Huang Yanchen and Duanmu Xingling carefully and pondered the flaws and weaknesses in them. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 99, Vast Universe Gong. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 99, Vast Universe Gong. Translator, Transin Editor, Transin. Huang Yanchen had a powerful cultivation, which was much stronger than warriors at the Black Realm's completion. As Duanmu Xingling's ability was on par with hers, she was definitely not weak. Duanmu Xingling had also opened up a special sacred mark, Ice Cold. When she unleashed her genuine qi, it became extremely cold, and snowflakes danced in the air. Other warriors who opened up the sacred mark of Ice Cold wouldn't be as powerful, even if they were at the Black Realm's completion. Only a great master like Duanmu Xingling was able to condense snowflakes within a 30-feet radius. Once her qi was unleashed, Duanmu Xingling was just at the Black Realm's completion, and could only condense snowflakes within a 30-feet radius. If she cultivated the Earth Realm, she would be able to condense snowflakes within a 100-feet radius when she unleashed her genuine qi. If she cultivated the Heaven Realm, she'd be able to condense snowflakes within a 1,000-feet radius. When she'd fight against others, there would be snowflakes all over the sky for hundreds of miles. That's the making of a true martial arts myth. Zhang Ruochen nodded and said, they are worthy of being profound division warriors and are so powerful. I guess they've reached the sword following the mind intermediate stage. Maybe they're close to the sword following the mind advanced stage. Only warriors who have reached the sword following the mind intermediate stage had a chance to go to the Martial Markets Coliseum and become a profound division warrior. Xingling, if you stop me again, I'll not be polite to you. Huang Yanchen attacked more and more quickly. Because her genuine qi was rich in wind nature, her speed advantage was gradually displayed. Duanmu Xingling said, Sister Chen, you should calm down. If you kill him on a spur of the moment, the martial market school will punish you heavily. Why would you destroy yourself along with him? And even if you don't do that, the rogue won't live a month. What do you mean? Huang Yanchen asked curiously. She pulled back her sword and stopped attacking. Duanmu Xingling also withdrew her sword and smiled. He is going to get a final battle with Feng Jilin on the life and death platform. It will take place in 20 days. How could it be? Feng Jilin has cultivated to the Black Realm's final state. In Western Campus, he isn't a top master, but he is a strong middle-class warrior. Zhang Ruo Chen might defeat him with another 2 years of practice, but he'll die if he fights against him now. Duanmu Xingling nodded and said, that's right. So you needn't kill him by yourself. In 20 days, he'll be killed by Feng Jilin. Huang Yanchen still didn't believe Zhang Ruochen would be that stupid. She gazed at him coldly and asked, are you going to fight against Feng Jilin on the life and death platform? That's right. Zhang Ruochen responded indifferently, he didn't think it was a big deal. Swish. Huang Yanchen took back her blue sword, stared at Zhang Ruochen as if he was dead, and said, in that case, I'll let you live more 20 days. Then Huang Yanchen walked towards the gate of yellow number 1 and was going to leave. Suddenly she stopped and turned to Zhang Ruochen, in 20 days, if you can defeat Feng Jilin on the life and death platform, I will spare your life. If you lose and Feng Jilin lets you live, I will kill you myself. After that, Huang Yanchen stepped forward with a wisp of genuine qi appearing on her feet. Each of her steps was a meter long and only her shadow could be seen. Seeing Huang Yanchen leave, Duanmu Xingling took a deep breath and asked, Zhang Ruochen, you have 20 days. Are you sure you can defeat Feng Jilin? Zhang Ruochen didn't reply, stared at Duanmu Xingling seriously and nodded, Senior sister, what's the rank of your ice-cold sacred mark? Class 6. Duanmu Xingling became proud of herself and hugged herself. I opened up my ice-cold sacred mark at age of 2. The earlier warriors open up the sacred mark, the earlier they were able to practice, Zhang Ruochen nodded. No wonder you reached the Black Realm's completion at 13 years old. You're very talented. How could it be? I'm 18. Duanmu Xingling cast a contemptuous glance at Zhang Ruochen, blinked and said, what an incredible warrior he was that he could reach the Black Realm's completion at 13. Even the first genius of Omen Ridge, Zhang Tiangui didn't reach it until 15. In order to prove her age, Duanmu Xingling lifted her chest slightly to show her rounded breasts. One had to admit, Duanmu Xingling's breasts were bigger than Huang Yanchen's. They were well developed. 18. Zhang Ruochen was a little shocked. Except for her breasts, the rest of her body didn't give away her age. Duanmu Xingling said, the exercises I practiced were special when I achieved the first level, my body will stay the same as at that time. I succeeded the first level at 13, so I look like I'm still 13 years old. I can't gain the look of 18 years of age unless I clear my genuine qi. Zhang Ruochen immediately understood. All of a sudden, he seemed to be thinking of something. It reminded me of the vast universe Gong, a moon-worship demonic sect exercise. It's similar to your exercise. You know, vast universe Gong. Duanmu Xingling exclaimed with a little shock. As she realized she was being rude, she asked, is there this kind of exercises in the moon-worship demonic sect? How have I never heard of it? Zhang Ruochen said, vast universe Gong is a top moon-worship demonic sect exercise. Only high-status warriors have the right to practice it. Of course, outsiders don't know it. Why do you know it? Are you an undercover agent from the moon-worship demonic sect to the martial market school? Duanmu Xingling asked tentatively. I just heard of it. Zhang Ruochen had seen many practical skills including vast universe Gong. Of course, vast universe Gong's last chapter was kept in the moon-worship demonic sect's headquarters, so Zhang Ruochen hasn't seen it. Not wanting to reveal the secrets of his past life, Zhang Ruochen changed the subject and asked, why did you get so surprised when you heard vast universe Gong? Really? No. Duanmu Xingling shook her head rapidly and said, I was just frightened by the moon-worship demonic sect. In the Kunlun Field, they are taboo. We'd better not talk about it or we'll be regarded as moon-worship demonic sect followers. Zhang Ruo Chen didn't want to continue this topic anymore and said, Senior sister, I'm practicing a palm technique and I have encountered some obstacles. Would you like to try it with me? I want to find out the palm technique's weakness from actual combat. Not a problem. There was a faint fragrance on her body which spread to the center of the courtyard. She stood upright and crooked her finger to beckon him. Come on, attack me with your palm technique. Senior sister, you should be careful. Zhang Ruochen stood 3 meters away from Duanmu Xingling. He stepped forward and moved his hands with all his bones and muscle taut. Zhang Ruochen pushed off his foot and rushed in. Duanmu Xingling was a little astonished. In just 10 days, he has made great progress. 10 days ago, his speed was only 38 meters per second, and now it's 40 meters per second. The Black Realm's medium-state warriors move at just 40 meters per second. Dragon shape and elephant shadow. His arms rang out with crying dragons when he exploded all his energy through his powerful palm technique punching towards Duanmu Xingling. The rushing genuine chi surged from Zhang Ruochen's palms and turned into a gust of wind which set Duanmu Xingling's robe rustling. Duanmu Xingling nodded once again. His palm technique is powerful and ingenious indeed. It is remarkable that he had the ability to converge all his power into his palms. Boom! Duanmu Xingling attacked faster than Zhang Ruochen. Just a shadow of her repelled Zhang Ruochen. Zhang Ruochen immediately released the second palm, the third palm, bang, bang. Zhang Ruochen attacked quickly and his continuous handprints were like sets of waves. Duanmu Xingling stood still with one hand behind her back and withstood Zhang Ruochen's handprints with the other hand. Zhang Ruochen continuously unleashed more than 100 palms until his chi lake was running out of genuine chi. Then he stepped back immediately and stopped attacking. Duanmu Xingling stared at Zhang Ruochen and said, Your palm technique was so powerful and flawless. Zhang Ruochen's body was covered in sweat. He laughed. This palm technique hasn't succeeded yet. Hasn't succeeded? Duanmu Xingling was shocked and said, I plan to guide you, but I find there is no need. I think your palm technique has reached the perfect realm. Zhang Ruochen shook his head slightly and said, I have already know the weakness. Again. After that, Zhang Ruochen released the fourth palm, dragon shape and elephant shadow, to attack Duanmu Xingling. Be mindful, Duanmu Xingling was a perfect training partner as she was a profound division warrior. He didn't stop until he ran out of energy. After sending Duanmu Xingling away, Zhang Ruochen went back to the internal space of the time and space spinel and ate half a kilo of spiritual brawn. His energy and genuine chi recovered quickly. Zhang Ruochen began to recall the weakness he found when he fought against Duanmu Xingling and practiced again. The next day, he visited Black No. 1 and asked Duanmu Xingling to fight him to practice his palm technique. The third day, the fourth day, on the fifth day, the fourth movement of the dragon and elephant prajna palm was not yet successful, but Zhang Ruochen broke into the Black Realm's advanced stage. It was normal for him to break through to a realm at such a high speed. After all, he had the time and space spinel and his practicing time was 3 times as much as other warriors. Also, he ate 24 kilograms of spiritual brawn. That was to say, reaching the Black Realm's advanced stage was simply a matter of course. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 100, The Palm Technique Success. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 100, The Palm Technique Success. Translator, Transin Editor, Transin. Zhang Ruochen was in a good mood, because he had reached the Black Realm's advanced stage and improved his cultivation greatly. As soon as the day was breaking, he visited Black No. 1 and asked Duanmu Xingling to fight against him as a way to improve his palm technique. As his palm technique improved, Zhang Ruochen felt he was not far away from the success of Dragon Shape and Elephant Shadow. He just needed an opportunity to break through it. This feeling was wonderful. Zhang Ruochen didn't rashly break into Black No. 1. He stood outside and channeled genuine chi into his voice. Senior sister, I want to practice palm technique with you again. Are you in there? A moment later, Duanmu Xingling opened up the door and stared at Zhang Ruochen with a drowsy look. Don't you sleep? Of course, warriors were also normal people who needed to rest, but they just needed less. A Black Realm warrior only needed 2 hours of sleep to recover energy. As for Zhang Ruochen, he had powerful spiritual power, so it was enough for him to rest for an hour, and he used the remaining hours to practice. Even if he had not slept for 3 days and nights, he maintained a good mental state. Zhang Ruochen laughed apologetically and said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you. In that case, I'll visit you at noon. Well, anyway, I've rested enough. Let's start now so that I can avoid your bother at noon. Did you have progress in your palm technique? Duanmu Xingling led him into the square of Dragon Martial Temple, stood upright with her one hand on her back and crooked her finger to beckon him. Today, we fight in this place. I will still use one hand and you can attack me with all your power. Zhang Ruochen stared at Duanmu Xingling, and nodded softly. He was very grateful to this beautiful sister who was only 13 or 14 years old. She is a warrior of division profound. How can the average person find her to practice? He was able to make so much progress because Duanmu Xingling helped him a lot. The wool. Zhang Ruochen roared and circulated his genuine qi. Finally, a stream of blood flowed from his pores and condensed into a faint blood column soaring into the sky. Soaring animal spirits, he reached the Black Realm's advanced stage so soon. Duanmu Xingling blinked, fluttering her eyelashes, and she was shocked by his rapid improvement. For just 5 days, Zhang Ruochen had made huge progress. Duanmu Xingling could easily see that every day was a new step forward for his cultivation. It's unbelievable that he could make such a huge advance at such a high speed. Even if he had enough practice resources, the rattling bones and muscles sounded like a dragon's cry as well as an elephant's roar. The spiritual blood he let out got thicker and thicker. Swish. He moved, turned into a fast wind and dashed out. His speed reached 44 meters per second, a whole new level. How fast? His speed is equal to the Black Realm's final state warriors. Duanmu Xingling's eyes became brighter with the shock of his talent. If she hadn't witnessed what happened herself, she wouldn't have believed he could become so powerful within half a month. Finally, she had enough confidence that Zhang Ruochen could defeat Feng Jilin. Given the speed of his progress, it will not be difficult for him to defeat Feng Jilin in half a month. Duanmu Xingling put out her hands and gave off genuine qi from the hollow of her hands. Her footsteps were flowing like treading on the wind. She attacked Zhang Ruochen directly with one single palm, and a faint billow of genuine qi quickly appeared in front of her palm. Boom. Zhang Ruochen took 3 steps back after receiving Duanmu Xingling's strike. Her genuine qi was so cold that it made a layer of white frost form on Zhang Ruochen's hands, which left his hands numb. It was the first time that Duanmu Xingling had attacked him proactively. Zhang Ruochen wasn't frightened but overjoyed and clapped towards Duanmu Xingling. Pure jade genuine qi inside Zhang Ruochen's body surged out and quickly thawed the frost on his hands. Duanmu Xingling moved as quickly as a ghost and unleashed a dexterous palm technique. She forced Zhang Ruochen to step back continuously without any chance to attack back. After 3 strikes, Duanmu Xingling slapped on Zhang Ruochen's chest, making him fly out 10 meters. Zhang Ruochen slapped the ground, turned over in the air, and landed on the ground firmly, under the palm attack of Duanmu Xingling. His 5 internal organs and 6 hollow organs had been strongly shocked and he'd gotten a little hurt. Duanmu Xingling laughed. Can you guess how much power I used? Zhang Ruochen just shook his head. Duanmu Xingling continued, I just used half my power, which was equal to that of a Black Realm's final state warrior. It's great that you could catch 3 strikes. Zhang Ruochen laughed bitterly. But you just used one hand. Duanmu Xingling shook her head and said, I know more about martial arts than a Black Realm's final state warrior, so it's only fair to use one hand. The reason why Duanmu Xingling held back her cultivation to the Black Realm's final state was that Feng Jilin's cultivation was at that level. Duanmu Xingling said, if you have the ability to force me to use the other hand, or if you can force me back, you will defeat Feng Jilin. Okay. Let's do it again. Having a strong fighting spirit, Zhang Ruochen attacked Duanmu Xingling again. At this time, he not only used the fourth movement of Dragon and Elephant Prajna palm but also used the first three palms, Elephant Galloping, Dragon in the Sky, Dragon and Elephant Returning to Earth, Dragon Shape and Elephant Shadow. After he unleashed the four palms, Zhang Ruo Chen's genuine chi decreased. He was hit, flew out, and nearly fell to the ground. This all made him feel very dispirited. All the four palm techniques are powerful, well, very well. Duanmu Xingling wore a silvery smile. Again. Zhang Ruochen didn't get discouraged, and attacked Duanmu Xingling again. This time, he caught 6 strikes. After that, Duanmu Xingling grasped his chest and threw him off. Zhang Ruochen turned in the air and steadied his body. He pushed down with his legs, and one hand caught the ground, but he did not fall. Incredible. Duan Xingxing stared at Zhang Ruochen and felt that Zhang Ruochen's breath became stronger and stronger. It was like a prone figure lying on the ground. Zhang Ruochen had an unwavering look with the jade-white genuine qi running quickly through the 36 meridians inside his body, and his 10 fingers turned pale like white jade. Slap. There was a splitting sound from under his feet and hand. The stone tablet had actually cracked. Dragon Shape and Elephant Shadow. Zhang Ruochen flew up and attacked towards Duanmu Xingling. In Duanmu Xingling's view, Zhang Ruochen divided into two and became two people. One unleashed the dragon's claw, the other unleashed the elephant's palm. They came from two directions. This is, Duanmu Xingling changed her expression slightly and channeled genuine qi into her index finger. She pointed out it towards the Zhang Ruochen on the left and repelled him. Suddenly, Zhang Ruochen from the right side attacked and slammed his hand on her chest. Duanmu Xingling bent back into an arch with her hands on the ground. She then raised her leg to kick towards Zhang Ruochen's wrist. Suddenly, the right and left Zhang Ruochen merged into one and he unleashed his two palms at the same time. Duanmu Xingling converged her genuine qi and slapped out her palm. Boom. Zhang Ruochen stood steadily while Duanmu Xingling catapulted backward about 16 meters. She dug in her feet and steadied her position. Duanmu Xingling looked at Zhang Ruochen with shock and asked, "Is the power you're using a successful level of Dragon Shape and Elephant Shadow?" Zhang Ruochen withdrew his palms and nodded. "What do you think of this power?" "It's equal to the palm technique of a mid-class spiritual stage." Duanmu Xingling laughed and continued, "You have a 70% chance of beating Feng Zhilin with your current power." In the beginning, Duanmu Xingling didn't believe that Zhang Ruochen was able to defeat Feng Zhilin in 1 month. The reason why she helped him was that she wanted to give him a better chance of saving himself. After all, it was difficult for Western campus to bring up a genius like Zhang Ruochen, and it would too bad if he died on the life and death platform. She did not expect that Zhang Ruochen had developed the ability to defeat Feng Zhilin within half a month. She had witnessed each step of his progress, and it was incredible. However, she didn't know that the space domain was Zhang Ruochen's biggest advantage, which he kept to himself. If he displayed the power of the space domain, then he had a 100% chance of beating Feng Zhilin. Zhang Ruochen said, "Thanks for your help. I couldn't have practiced to a successful level in such a short time without your help." Duanmu Xingling laughed. "I'm just afraid you will lose face for Dragon Martial Temple. For of this reason, I helped you practice palm techniques. After all, you belong to Yellow Number 1. I'm curious about how strong your cultivation will be after half a month. You will know it when I fight on the life and death platform in half a month. Since my palm technique has reached a successful level, I won't bother you anymore. See you." Zhang Ruochen said courteously and walked towards Yellow Number 1. Duanmu Xingling stared at his back, her eyes flashing. He is very talented, and it will not be long before he practices to the Black Realm's completion. Sister Chen picked up a treasure. Why can't I pick up a genius like this? Zhang Ruochen went back to Yellow Number 1 and continued to practice while grasping 2 spiritual crystals in his hand. He was absorbing spiritual qi to consolidate his realm. Practicing in the internal space of the time and space spinel for 3 days could consolidate the Black Realm's advanced stage thoroughly. Of course, as he had just reached the Black Realm's advanced stage, his genuine qi was only 20% of the qi pool and there was a huge space to fill. The capacity of his qi pool had enlarged 10 times when he reached the Black Realm's advanced stage and could hold much more genuine qi. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible.